Good afternoon. I'm Muriel Bowser. I am joined by Police Chief Peter Newsham, along with members of our police command staff and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Kevin Donahue. We are here to provide a public safety briefing, but to also announce initiatives focused on several areas experiencing high crime in the district. You know that each year we do a summer crime initiative to focus our resources and efforts on combating crime and violence in the areas hit hardest by crime. With the continued violence happening in our city, we are now launching a fall crime prevention initiative. This past summer, compared to the previous summer, our target areas saw a 44% decrease in homicides and a 26% decrease in overall violent crime. The reason this initiative works is because it focuses both policing and flooding our neighborhoods with supportive services, and it responds directly to the police trends that we see. One disturbing trend that we have witnessed this year is that too many teenagers in our city are becoming victims of violent crime. Too many teenagers have access to guns and they're using them. And what's happening is that too many young black men, not even men, boys, are losing their lives to gun violence. So my charge today to MPD and to all of the agencies is that we focus on these particular areas in our city. I'm going to ask the chief to talk to you in some detail about what those areas are, and the chief will also provide a general briefing, and then we'll take your questions.
All right, thank you, Mayor Bowser. Thank you all for being here today. I want to begin by expressing my condolences to the families who've recently lost loved ones to senseless gun violence here in the District of Columbia. Over the past several days, I've been on the scene of multiple senseless shooting scenes. I've seen firsthand the impact that this can have on families and communities. The tragedy that these families are suffering has made us more determined to step up our efforts to do everything possible to curb the uptick in shootings we've seen in our community. I'm going to talk about a few cases right now, recent cases, to orient you to what's been going on over the past couple of days. Tuesday, October 8th, at about 7:56 p.m., members of the 6th District heard gunshots and they observed individuals fleeing in the 5200 block of Sheriff Road Northeast. When they got on the scene, they found an adult male victim lying in front of the barbershop with a gunshot wound. That gunshot wound later ended up taking this man's life. Our preliminary investigation reveals that this incident was the result of an exchange of gunfire. A firearm was recovered from the scene, and the shooting does not appear to be random in nature. On Wednesday, October 9th, at about 1:15 p.m. broad daylight, members of the 1st District responded to the 1300 block of Half Street Southwest for the sounds of gunshots. When they got on the scene, they found a juvenile who was later pronounced dead, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. That decedent was identified as 15-year-old Thomas Johnson of Southeast Washington, D.C. The preliminary investigation into this case has determined that this was not a random shooting. The victim was the intended target, and clearly we want to know who in our community would shoot and kill a 15-year-old boy. Surveillance video that was captured of the shooting has been released. We have an image that's out there for the community to look at. The FBI has actually contributed $25,000 to the reward in this case. So anybody who can provide information about that photo that we have released would be eligible for a reward of up to $50,000 that leads to the arrest and conviction of the suspect in this case. On October 9th at about 9:47 p.m., members of the 5th District responded to the 1600 block of Rosedale Street Northeast. When they arrived, they found inside of a home 2 adult males suffering from fatal gunshot wounds. The decedents were identified as 24-year-old Devon Miller of Northeast D.C. and 27-year-old Lagelfek Fonge of Lanham, Maryland. We have obtained, as you know, an arrest warrant in this case for 27-year-old Devon Payton of Southeast Washington, D.C. His image was also released, and we are hopeful that someone in the community will give us information that will help us bring him into custody. We have recovered the suspect's vehicle in Alexandria, Virginia, and that is the area where he was last seen. He should be considered armed and dangerous. If anyone knows the whereabouts of Mr. Payton, they are eligible for up to $50,000 reward for his arrest and conviction. Yesterday, at about 12:42, again in broad daylight, 1st District officers responded to the 1200 block of I Street Southeast for the sound of gunshots. When they arrived, they found an adult male who was unconscious, suffering from a gunshot wound. He was transported to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. He has been identified as 36-year-old Marcus Williams of Southeast Washington, D.C. We believe in this particular case that the motive was robbery. We have just been able to complete getting the video in this particular case, and we will have that available through our Public Information Office. As you can see, the most recent uptick in incidents that we have seen have been focused in Ward 6 of our city, and that's something that we haven't seen in the past. So we're going to have officers focusing acutely on that particular area of our city. Nobody deserves to die from gun violence in our city, and we must collectively reevaluate our approach to addressing the proliferation of shootings that we're seeing here in the District of Columbia. The mayor and I, along with members of my leadership team, met last week to discuss ideas on what we could do. Out of those meetings came the idea to replicate the success of our summer crime initiative when we have those during the summertime period. We have done this for the last 11 years, and each year that we have held the summer crime initiative areas, we have seen significant decreases in violent crime in those areas. During this last summer's summer crime initiative, we saw a 44% reduction in homicides. We saw a 21% reductions in assaults with a dangerous weapon, and we saw a 22% reduction in violent crime with a 26% overall reduction in crime. Because of this success, we're announcing that MPD, in partnership with the Mayor's Office and the rest of our partners here in the District of Columbia government, we're going to have a fall crime initiative. This will be beginning on Monday. It will focus resources, utilize crime-fighting technology, and call upon partner agencies and organizations to assist in a coordinated effort to reduce violence in our 6 identified areas. Obviously, our number one goal is to reduce shootings and violent crime in our city. To determine the locations that we selected and the boundaries for the Fall Crime Initiative, we analyzed overall violent crime and firearm-related activities, including the sounds of gunshots, shot spotter alerts, gunshot wound victims, and we identified areas where we have had a recent increase in shootings. We also got information from our intelligence division and our district commanders, who you see behind me, to identify areas where we believe there's a potential for crew conflicts. The 6 areas that we have selected are the southwest area in Ward 6, and we have, as you know, we've had recent homicides in that area. The second area is the Columbia Heights and Shaw area. And we've had a number of robberies and shootings in that area recently. The next area will be in Ward 5 in the Saratoga area of our city. The fourth area, the fourth area will be in the Greenway area. This is an area that we have selected in past summer crime initiatives. This is an area in our city that has been plagued with violent crime, and we're going to continue to address crime in that area. The last 2 areas are the Washington Highlands area and the Congress Heights area. What people should anticipate seeing in these areas is not only an increase in police presence. We will utilize overtime to ensure 7 days a week we are increasing a police visibility, and you will also see traditional police activity for addressing violent offenders, for removing illegal firearms from our community, and for holding repeat violent offenders accountable. You will also see a collective effort with our agency partners to bring resources into these areas, resources such as jobs resources, resources such as resources that can help people with mental health or substance abuse issues. As I said before, these initiatives that we have had in the summertime for the last 11 years have been successful, and we anticipate the same success during our fall crime initiative. We can take any questions that you all might have.
Questions?
Can you tell us anything about the D.C. Housing Authority employee, what kind of job he did, how long he's been? We've heard nothing from the Housing Authority, even condolences for him so far. If you can tell us anything about this man.
I would rather give you complete information, Mark, and I can do that at a later time. I can't tell you anything about his personnel history with us at this time, with the Housing Authority.
It's not the city, though, right? That's different.
It's a quasi-governmental agency, as you know. It's an independent agency, but still a governmental agency.
North Capitol Street.
Say again?
North Capitol, that's the agency there on North Capitol Street.
That's their headquarters is on North Capitol, the D.C. Housing Authority.
Do you know if Mr. Williams was working at Potomac Gardens when this happened, and if it was related to his job or just...
Our understanding is that he was working there at the time. I think he was a recent DCHA employee. I think he formerly worked for a contractor. And we don't believe at this time that it's in any way associated with his work at the property.
You know, you mentioned you may have surveillance video. Is that surveillance video from the Housing Authority, or is it one of your cameras?
It's DC Housing Authority video that was, yes. And that should be out probably as soon as you all get out of here. We should make that available to you.
The same crime, Chief. Do you believe that this was a robbery, or do you believe he was targeted? Because it sounded like he was chased down.
Our initial preliminary investigation suggests that this was a robbery.
But he was shot in the chest, is that right?
He was shot one time.
Okay, yesterday, I believe we were told he was shot in the chest. So I think we're just trying to square, was he running away from the assailant, or was the assailant running at him and shot him?
Yeah, I think that's the type of detail of the investigation that I don't want to discuss publicly at this point, because that could be, I don't want to negatively impact our investigation. I can tell you he was shot one time, and we believe that it was a robbery. We have information to suggest that it was a robbery. And we don't have anything right now to suggest it was associated with his employment at the property.
So, Chief, so basically what you're saying, looking at your statistics, it looks like the summer crime initiative significantly reduced at least homicides and other crime in these particular areas. So it is working. Is that what you're saying?
If you look at any research that's been done on what they call hotspot policing, that it has been successful in reducing violent crime. The 11 years that we have done the Summer Crime Initiative here in Washington, D.C., it has been successful. We have some communities right now that are on edge because of some shootings that have occurred in their communities. We feel obligated and responsible to do something, and we are going to do the very best we can to go out there and stop this shooting from occurring in our communities. And we believe this is one of many approaches that we're going to take to address these issues in the city.
Concentrating now, just a couple of weeks ago, you all said you were going to put more police on overtime.
Yeah, and we
did. Is this in addition to that, or
this will be in some cases it will be in addition to that? Yes.
So you'll actually see more officers than you had announced a couple of weeks ago.
Particularly in these targeted areas that we've selected, they should see more officers for sure.
Chief, on Rosedale, the killings on Rosedale, are there any other details you can offer on that in terms of whether any of the attackers were known to the victims or purely random?
Our understanding in that case also is that the suspect in the case was allowed entry into the home. We're assuming there was some relationship between that suspect and somebody inside of the home. After the suspect was in the home, we believe the suspect attempted a robbery and then ended up murdering these two young people who have no business being dead right now.
Was there only one suspect?
We have one suspect, yes.
Were there two people who went in, or is it one?
That kind of detail I can't talk about, Peter, but we do have one person we feel is responsible that we've obtained a warrant for.
Mayor, I have a question for you. Yesterday we did a deep dive on the response to the Metro collision and determined that with a timeline given to us by Metro, DC FEMS, and OUC, that there was 7 minutes went by between the time a call was placed to 911 and that help was dispatched for the crash. This is now on the heels of the 4-minute delay in sending help to the fire.
I don't have that detail, and I'll respond to that on another time. I'm not going to deal with that because I don't have what you're looking at. Any other questions? Yes.
Chief, yesterday you were talking again about the narrative of so many illegal guns on the streets and the consequences not being severe enough to change people's behavior. And what you said was, in regard to the shootings, because of that you don't see the shootings slowing down anytime soon. When people hear that quote coming from the chief of police, what are they to take from that?
Hopefully people will get engaged and they will kind of look at the sentencing that some of our career criminals are getting and maybe give it a different consideration or get whatever input they can give. That was, as you know, it was in a moment of frustration. Whenever you go to that many homicide scenes in a couple of days, it affects you personally and emotionally to have that happen. I do think that we need collectively to look at what we're doing with gun offenders in our city. I've said it over and I will say it over and over again, that I think that gun offenders need to be held accountable. I think the indicators that we have, all of the data that we have shows that people who are arrested with guns are likely, very likely, in about the range of about 70% to be recidivists. We are seeing last year in 2018 that almost 50% of the people that we arrested for homicide had prior gun arrests. It's very disturbing to me to see people who we know are potentially going to be involved in violent behavior and we're not appropriately dealing with them when we get them the first time. And we're seeing young people being killed as a result. I take that very personal. In a moment of frustration, of course, I may say something like that, but I do think collectively we need to take a look at what's going on with these sentences.
Chief, I'm sure you've heard this before, but the police union feels that their officers are handcuffed in terms of acting proactively, both because of some of the discipline and because of some of the
Peter, you can look at the activity of our police officers. Our police officers are out there policing. I don't think there's any data out there that suggests that they're not. If you look at any statistical indicator about activity by our police, it shows our police are engaged. Our police are interacting with the community. Our police are dealing with a lot of crime in a very appropriate way. I think that's a question that you might want to pose back to the police union. From where I sit and what I see, you have some of the best police officers here in the country. They're committed to public safety, and they're out there working every day. They're working on traffic safety, and they're working on violent crime in our city. Like I said at the beginning of my statements, when we see this type of thing happening, all that does is make us more determined to do a better job at making the city safe.
I guess there's an ongoing at South Capitol Metro with the stabbing of a juvenile that may be fatal. Can you update us?
Yeah, we're just receiving preliminary information on that right now. I don't have an indication right now that it's fatal. I received some information before I walked in the door, so I do not have a lot of detail on that.
Is it a juvenile? Do you have a lookout? Do you have a suspect?
I don't have that right now because it happened really as I was walking in the door. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.